Stories of life told by photographers.
I was talking on the extra mile about my son, my youngest son Thomas, who started making nettle chips or nettle crisps, picking the stingers and then popping them on a baking tray, covering them in, I think it was coconut oil, and then producing after 20 minutes something that I shouldn't be too worried about if I really didn't have to taste them again. With due respect to my son Thomas for his ingenuity in trying to come up with different flavours of said stinging nettle chips. But he'd love this path that I've got today for the photo walk. It in a matter of weeks, and I may have mentioned this last week as well on another path I was taking, it's so overgrown with grasses and nettles that it too will become one of the impassable paths for my photo walk, which is a shame because it's one of those places I love to come. It's slightly off the beaten track. You might be able to hear some traffic rumbling in the background, but other than that, I usually find myself totally alone on this path. No Barney today. He came out for our walk the other day on the extra mile. He's off with his girlfriend today. Let me make a picture, a sketchbooker, to start the programme. For no other reason, I've decided to go square format today and to make sure that I'm seeing through my X100V with no other choice. I've flicked to 1:1 JPEG. So this is baked in. I'm just going to try, because I don't go into square format very often, if at all really, so I thought I'll have a go today with my sketchbookers, see what we come up with. A sketchbook to start the day.
The Photo Walk is brought to you by mpb.com. Quality used photo and video kit. Buy, sell, trade, create at mpb.com.
God, long grass, nettles, hogweed. What's next? Triffids. I can't believe... I came up here, 10 days ago to record... 10 days ago with Barney, actually, just on it wasn't a recording thing at all. I just came up here with Sir Barkalot. Blimey, look at that. That shows you the conditions that we've had have been absolutely perfect. Rain, more rain, a bit more rain, touch of sunshine, rain. We had a pretty fantastic start to the week, actually, weather-wise. But now the weather is turning in again on itself, just in time for the coronation, which is happening in the UK, which I entirely understand may not be big news where you are in the world. There is, it seems, an air, play on words now, an air, see what I did there, of indifference in some places. But yes, a coronation for the good people of United Kingdom land to feel divided over. The closest I shall get to the coronation, or being any kind of part of it, is a coronation chicken sandwich, as I'm going to be out on the sea, just off the coast of Poole in Dorset land, on a boat photographing an ocean-going wedding reception. Probably in the rain, if the cynical forecast is anything to go by. I miss so many events. I go to an event, of course, I'm going to a wedding, I'm going to a big event, but I miss events, which is an occupational, I don't want to say occupational hazard, because that's not very respectful to the people, the good people who pay me money to be at their event. But you know what I mean. But it's not actually the rain that I'm worrying about. 70% chance, by the way, at this point. It's the moderate to strong breeze. 70 guests, all with copious amounts of the ship's champagne rations consumed in a bobby about boat. Doesn't that mean batten down the hatches, me hearties, do something with a main brace, prepare for boarders? Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a rough day out on the water, which is where I'm going to be for most of the afternoon and late morning and afternoon. So that should make some interesting pictures. Neil, rewind would you for a second? Coronation chicken. What's that? Well, as far as I've researched, it was invented for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. Coronation chicken. You get small bits of chicken, diced chicken, there we go, and a touch of curry powder. And it's endured and evolved in British cuisine for 70 years. I do think our cuisine is a wonderfully multicultural, multilingual experience for the taste buds these days. Long gone are the days of spam. But yes, being a wedding photographer, primarily over the last 20 years, I've missed a lot of events. Like a coronation this weekend. I've missed FA Cup finals, I've missed World Cup matches, I've missed the World Cup finals. I mean, there are bits of history, for me, that have been witnessed solely and entirely by photographing, or I suppose watching people who are watching a telly, or sneaking a glimpse on their mobile phones beneath a table during the wedding speeches. I see you. Or as I have in the past, I've also been asked to intervene during said weddings to help move the wedding speeches altogether because of a certain penalty shootout overlapping with the meal. One such being Saturday, 1st of July 2006. I'm at Frimley Park, which sounds like it could be a football stadium, but no, Frimley Park, the wedding venue. England are facing Portugal in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, which is being hosted in Germany. And it's 0-0. It remains level at the end of normal play. 90 minutes have gone. We're down to 10 men as well. You'll remember that. Well, you might not. Hang on, Neil, I don't give two hoots about England. OK, you won't remember it, but my other listener might. And the chef is very keen for guests to sit down for their meal, for the wedding breakfast, as it's called. But no, we've got an additional 30 minutes of play, so they send in the toastmaster to negotiate more time, and the chef reluctantly agrees. Extra time comes and goes. It's still 0-0. Next up, penalties, and the toastmaster is nowhere to be seen. He's off. He's thinking, I'm not going anywhere near the chef now. So they send in me to negotiate the next part. And I'm telling you, the chef looked at me. Well, I felt it wouldn't be unreasonable to suggest that I felt he was inclined to serve me up as the starter as I was talking to him. But he agreed. He said, five minutes. That's what you get. And, thereafter it was the usual tale of photographing guests looking completely horrified as we crashed out of yet another World Cup football event thanks to penalties. Good pictures for the wrong reasons. Anyway, I shall raise a coronation chicken sandwich to the Lord High Admiral and King while I'm bobbing up and down in a moderate breeze, and I'll report back to you next week. Now, that tale has naught to do with my guest this week. I just thought I'd start broadly topical and photographic, and actually my guest doesn't even live in the shadow of a monarchy, unless Hollywood counts in a kind of acting royalty way, he says, shoehorning like never before. Ave Pilders is an American photographer and designer. His early photographs of jazz musicians, including Nina Simone and Dizzy Gillespie, John Coltrane, Dave Brubeck, were first published in Downbeat magazine in the 1960s. He spent years photographing the famous stars of Hollywood Boulevard, not necessarily the living and breathing kind, but the stars that are cemented into the world-famous Hollywood Walk of Fame. And we talk about Starstruck, the book about that work, and Ave shares a few secrets on making photographs of people on the street when initially they may be reticent.
Today on the Photowalk.
I might not point to them. I might point to something they're standing in front of, and they'll step out of the way a little bit so that I can take a picture of the fruits or vegetables or car parts or whatever they're standing in front of. And, I love wide-angle lenses, and when I step back, those people are still in the picture.
Stories of life told by photographers, and today we're joined as you and I walk by Ave Pilders and another pop-up guest soon to be revealed in a show that's written by you, from the letters, the thoughts, the pictures that you've shared with me. Everyone is a photographer on this walk, whatever camera you use, and that includes the not-so-humble smartphone, as we say, because this is a show about how taking and making photos has you feel, what it does for us and others around us, and we'll be inspired as we walk by words from other picture makers. In the mailbag today, can you imagine making a picture every hour for a whole year during your waking day? Could you do it? Well, one of our writers can, and I chatted with her briefly too about this wonderful, personal yet public project that has made such an impact. Almost a kind of life lesson project that we'll talk about today. Stand by, I'm going to use the A word, you know the one, for a letter from Nepal. Also today, show flasks that are now turning up in all corners of this world. A story of resilience, and of course, first Friday of the month means new assignment time. Another challenge for the month ahead. Nearly 7 billion people on this planet are able to make a photograph with something and record their life. So we're not walking alone, documenting our place and our time in this world. Checklist out. Coffee, check. Garibaldi's, definitely in the bag. Neil, check. Walking boots, check. Clampons for the mountaineering. It's clampons, isn't it? Do they use clampons? I'm sure it's clampons. Check. And sturdy walking trousers for the triffid-like nettles. Check. Let's start the walk. Just now, a cyclist brushed past me on this track, and I said to him, "Blimey, you must have legs of steel," or they must be, I didn't like to say leathery legs, clearly, very rude, because he was just cycling straight through the nettles. He said, yeah, it stings a bit, but he seemed quite happy. Right, let me take another sketchbook. It seems very strange. Let me put my letters down there. It seems very strange to be working in square format. It's not a shape. It's not a compositional shape that I'm used to. But I've got some... the sun's just peeping through the path, or along the path where I'm walking, and there's some wonderful branches, some trees here that are just semi-illuminated by that sunshine. 1/80th, 2.8, 160 ISO. Love it. And there's another tree just to the right of it. And this tree looks like it's got... let me get a picture while the sun's... because the shadow's dissecting it in a kind of, sort of from top right to bottom left through the frame. Around the tree there's all these what would they be called? Would they be some sort of parasitical plant, or I'm probably not getting this right. There's ivy, for example, weaving around. It's like they've all got this tight grasp on the tree and they're not letting go. Anyway, there's a couple of sketchbookers which I'll pop up on the show page. Busy show page this week, a good one. We've got films, we've got links obviously to those that we talk with, and from some of the letters you're about to hear that I read out, and a note to self, famous note to self. Please remember my studio self to put onto the show page a film by Peter McKinnon, Why We Create, which is a lovely 3-minute piece that he's filmed from a letter that he received, and it was a real kick up the backside to me in several ways, because I've been planning to do not something the same. Clearly, it's never the same as one created to another, but it has given me a kick up the backside to produce some films from the letters that you write in, which I've been meaning to do. It's another one of those meaning to do list items, Neil. I suspect it probably is. Right, letters. Where do we start with the mailbag? I'm going to start a little out of sync. And I say that because this is a fairly new, actually no, scratch that. This is a brand new letter, when there are a good few further back still to come. But there is method in this, if you'll bear with me. I'm starting with Anna Bush. Dear Neil, Hope this finds you well. Firstly, can I say, absolutely love listening to the Photowalk. You're very kind. It's my company during the drive to work from Chipping Norton to Oxford, a lovely part of the world. I'm fascinated by your discussions about 365 projects, as I've always felt compelled to record the passing of time through diaries and images. I feel a touch guilty, actually, that I haven't, my postings to 365 have not been as prolific as they should be this week. I've had some late nights doing stuff for you, doing stuff for this programme, stuff that I shall talk about over the coming weeks. But that stuff has meant that the stuff of 365 is stuff that I've not been doing. I've been a bit stuffed, if you'll pardon the expression. Anyway, Anna says, I just wanted to share with you a recent project that I've completed, which was inspired by a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Note the passing of time with open eyes, which I'd come across while reading Patti Smith's Year of the Monkey book. At 6 p.m, says Anna, on the 29th of April 2022, I started a year-long project which involved taking a photograph every hour on the hour during my day. Let me repeat that. A year-long project, a photograph every hour on the hour during my day. Yes, you and I did hear correctly. Anna, this is like a 365 on steroids. It really is. At 6 p.m, on the 29th of April 2023, so we are talking but days ago now, I took my last photo and completed the project. I had mixed feelings at the end. Thrilled to have accomplished my most challenging photographic project to date, yet unsettled because part of me wanted to continue. It felt very strange to allow 7 p.m. to pass by uncaptured. I posted all my photographs onto my Instagram account, which is at @a_year_in_hours. I tell you what, let me put that on the show page. Although I've recorded some amazing moments throughout the year, such as celebrating my 40th, trips to New York, Barcelona and Dublin, many of my photographs actually capture the mundanity of everyday life. For example, there's countless photographs of a view from my bed, my dog Rupert, cups of tea, my desk at work, and my feet standing in different locations. There were occasions when it was especially challenging to take a photograph on the hour, and probably very annoying for others, such as during work meetings, hospital appointments, and when I was sitting on the loo. Well, that's part of a day. There were also occasions when I was having a bad day, and the alarm would make me want to hurl the phone across the room, but needless to say, I still took the photo. My hourly diary really tracks the ups, the downs, the rhythms of life, and the recurring alarm certainly made me aware of how quickly time passes. Keep up the great work, Neil. Looking forward to hearing future podcasts. Kind regards, Anna Bush. Anna, my word. I mean, that's the most extraordinary of projects. I shall link to it, of course, on the show page today, as I promised. And I note that you did do this as a you project, which I'll come back to in something in a moment's time. But the absolute normalcy of life, it's a joy to see. It's like living with the photographer when you look through this project. It really is. I mean, a 365 is one thing, but every hour on the hour, I mean, there were moments where I felt, because I've poured over the Instagram feed now. There were moments where I thought, I wish I had a description of this so I understood what was going on here. But after, 12, 15 pictures maybe, you don't need that. You really don't need it. It's fantastic. So thank you. And on the subject of Patti Smith, known of course for her music, but she's a great artist and a photographer and a writer too. And you've reminded me to write to her again. I think I'm up to 4 mails now. One day, my persistence will pay off. I do make sure to always send a different message, by the way. Should you say, Neil, do make sure you're writing something original each time. I mean, I flatter myself that she might have them all stacked up and think, I must get back to that Neil chap. But years ago, I remember sending, in my radio days, sending letters upon letters to one particular program controller because I was really keen to work at his radio station, and he wrote back to me after probably 10 letters, I don't know, maybe more, and chastised me for the letter always being the same. Save the date. That was the only bit that was different. Why he didn't just write back to me at some stage during those years and say thanks but no thanks, I don't know. He sort of saved it so that one day he could chastise me about the same composition of words. I did actually, and I'm not sure I should feel proud of this. This is a gloating-free moment. I did actually get offered a job by him years and years later, to which I turned him down. Yeah, I was happily employed somewhere else. That was the reason for it. I took no pleasure, obviously. But Patti Smith, the book, Year of the Monkey, I have linked to on the show page. It's a book I really do want to read. I'm a bit of a Patti fan, and I haven't read this, to my shame. Year of the Monkey, I'll read from an article, I'll praise it slightly. Year of the Monkey is a 2019 memoir by Patti Smith. The work describes a single year in her life. The year was 2016, and she spent that year travelling. It's a travel log and a dream journal, all in one, which sounds fascinating, doesn't it? On the journey, she reads endlessly. She strikes up conversations with strangers. She walks in the middle of the night, and she drinks gallons of coffee. In the suitcase that she took only 6 Electric Lady t-shirts, 6 pairs of underwear, 6 pairs of bee socks, a couple of notebooks, some cough sweets, a camera, and the last packs of slightly expired Polaroid film, and a book, which says a lot about her day-to-day needs. She gets lifts from oddball types, among them a couple who forbade her to talk while they were driving. Can you imagine that? Do they know what gem of a human they had in their car? Anyway, they abandoned her at a gas station because Patti wouldn't stay quiet. But there we go. There's a book for your reading list. Anna, I feel you've earned as well. Going back to Anna, one of the famous, not so famous show flasks. I will be sending one in the post to you. Clearly too late to be photographed for your feature, but all the same, it's an above and beyond project, isn't it? Of that there is no doubt. And I reached out to her a couple of nights back to see if I could grab 5 to 10 minutes just to chat about this project, because I thought you'd probably like to hear from Anna herself about this incredible feat. And fortunately, guess what? She was in. So Anna, you tried to do this and failed on your first attempt, didn't you? What?
I did.
So what? I suppose first of all, I'm bound to ask, why on earth would you want to make a picture every single hour well, it's not every single hour, is it? But all your waking hours.
People often ask me, did you do it as well at night? And I thought, well, no, I'd go completely crazy. No. But it was usually, I usually get up at about 5 or 6 in the morning, and usually finished at about 9 or 10. Right. And I've missed a few of them, not many, but there's just really moments where I might have put the phone down, because I'm a teacher, so I teach art and photography. So the alarm was kind of going off in lessons discreetly, and the kids kind of knew about it. And they said, "Oh, miss, it's coming up to, it's at 1 o'clock. What are you going to do for your next hour?" So it's really nice. So people kind of got involved as well.
Why did it fail first time though? What happened?
Well, there was 2 things going on, because I was kind of recording the hour, and I was using it on my iPhone as well, because it's the most convenient. So I had the timestamp on it. But then I started posting it on Instagram, and for certain periods it was live, and that was also a really interesting thing, because friends would say to me, "I know exactly where you are. You're still in the pub, or you're here, you're there." And I thought, maybe this isn't a good thing. And then there were times when I got really behind with Instagram, and I think there was about 20 days worth behind. And then I got banned from Instagram because I was trying to catch up. So I was trying to post 60 images to try. So
they thought you were spamming it.
And then I worked out. I thought, well, I think I can post about 59 without getting banned. But then in the end, I think I carried on the hours, but the Instagram was a little bit patchy. It was either live or then it was very behind. Yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because you've not done it for any kind of validation or likes or look at me. You've done it as it's about as pure as you can make a photo project that is something that is for you, by you, that just you might only ever see.
I think the idea was really and I still would like to put it into a book. Now, I don't know how I'm going to do that because there's so many different ways of presenting it. I'm thinking you could do like the 6 o'clocks, the 7 o'clocks, or every Monday, or even just 11 o'clock, because I'm a teacher, I often find at 11 o'clock we're in the staff room and there's not a lot of stuff around, but although there's not a lot, things are constantly changing. There's cake on the table, it's somebody's birthday, or the event, and because I work in an art department as well, there's often crazy things going on. It's quite a fun environment to record. So I think that is the plan, to eventually get some kind of book made.
There's a personal question I want to ask, which I'm thinking, should I really? But I'm just gonna blithely go in and ask it. How does it affect relationships? If you're out and about and you think, bing bong, time to take a picture, and they're going, don't think so. Sorry, we're in a cinema or a restaurant.
Really, really good. But on Saturday, I obviously took my last photo, and 7 o'clock really bothered me. I wanted to carry on. My partner said, "No, you can't do this. It's just so intrusive." But quite often, if my alarm goes off, and say for example, if I'm driving and my partner's in the car, they take the photo for me. So there again, that support was always there, which is really, really helpful.
It's such an odd question to say if there have been any highlights, because if you've taken well over 5,000, approaching 6,000 pictures, you couldn't possibly find one, or could you? I
think the greatest thing when I look back on it is I really love taking photographs of people, but I find it quite difficult to approach people. So I found that with this project, particularly with like colleagues and friends and family, because they all knew I was doing this project, it kind of got really people involved. Can I be in your next photo? And I find that some of the photos that I really like are ones of, particularly of like colleagues, of like, it might be kind of close-ups of their arms or their feet, or the way they hold their hands. And I think if I hadn't been doing the project, those photographs would never have happened. So they're kind of, I look back and think, it's amazing the bits that I've recorded just through taking, I guess it's about 15 to 20 photos a day. And it's also interesting because I'm not taking photographs and not being selected on things that I'd usually photograph, but it's just general day-to-day life. And I think at the time you think, well, what am I doing? People think I'm a bit crazy. It's, cups of tea, or it's the view out of the window. But because I've got so many of those similar photos, you see those slight changes. For example, the view out of the window, the change of the seasons. I know it's only a year, but things changing, my dog aging, and so it's quite interesting. Just tracking the passing of time.
Patti Smith, the book.
Incredible. I'm a big Patti Smith fan. Absolutely love her music and her art and her books. And actually, she produced one, Book of Days, which is very similar, where she would post kind of daily, like a 365, one which we released recently. But I just found that quote really interesting. It was Marcus Aurelius. Note the passing of time with open eyes. And I kind of think that really goes hand in hand, doesn't it, with kind of the 365 and the hour by hour. We take things for granted, and you realise that when you record these just banal moments, you look back and you think, wow, these things are changing. We've changed the colour of the living room wall. I've got a new mug. Just really interesting things. And it makes me realise as well that those moments where you really do not want to take a photograph, you're in a foul mood, or I think there was maybe one where I was at work and I'd had a horrible lesson, and I thought, well, what am I going to photograph? And there's just this mad, frantic scribble on a piece of A4 paper. Nobody knows what that's about, but I know, it reminds me, that's the kind of, that I remember that lesson and just how I was feeling. So I think sometimes it's quite interesting how you try and communicate something and try and record that feeling. And I guess it all comes about from, because I love family photo album. And when you look through images of your family, your granddad, your great-granddad, you think, well, we've got these images, but I know nothing about their day-to-day life. What were they eating for dinner? What were they doing? What shoes were they wearing? And I kept thinking, wouldn't it be lovely if I just had a diary that was passed down? And then I guess you start thinking about your own life. I just seem to be obsessed with how you can record life.
Oh God, Anna, I've just thought of a project. It's too late for me, but it would have been a wonderful project. What you've just said, I've thought, what about a book called Granny's Shoes?
Granny's Shoes.
Okay, it might just be, it's Granny's Shoes is the title of the book, but it's all the stuff that Granny owned that you think, oh yeah, I remember the hairbrush. Oh yeah, I remember that old radio that she had on the side. Oh, I remember that. Granny's Shoes.
Yeah. I know, again, when my nan passed away, when we were clearing out her house, I took some photographs, and they're probably the most precious photographs I have, just of her bedroom, with like photographs of her and my granddad posted up on a mirror, and just those moments, and you know, that you'll never get back again, and just the fridge magnets as well of all their cruise ship visits and things. But it reminds me, because I remember listening to one of your podcasts where you said about all the voice clips that you've got of your sons growing up, and it's such a lovely thing, isn't it, when you've got, you know, that record.
I think Anna, you're the ultimate collector.
I think I am.
And my thanks to Anna Bush for the conversation, the chat that we had. And since I mentioned the famous, not so famous flask a moment back, which I will be sending to you, Anna, for this incredible feat in photographic terms, let me mention a letter from Patricia Langer, who's received a long-distance posting of said show flask. Remember, if you do get one, your part of the bargain is to photograph it in a unique, and if you can, artistic setting. Just so I know it's going to a loving home, clearly. Good morning, Neil, says Patricia. I just wanted to let you know that my sweet, sweet flask has arrived. Thank you so much. It fits perfectly in the side pouch of my camera bag. You see, Patricia designed specifically with your camera bag in mind. I hope you will understand. And it also tucks nicely into my tote when I'm just out and about with my daily carry, which is an X100V. We are X100V brothers and sisters. We are. I've been thinking about what undeniably Canadian setting I might use in which to photograph the flask for you. It's been a bit of a head scratch. The obvious Royal Canadian Mounted Police crossed my mind. You know, one of those square-jawed Dudley Do-Right types holding the flask next to his horse's nose, but I'd have to fly to Calgary, so nix that. Then there was Niagara Falls, but nah. What do you mean, nah? You might take that for granted. God, that's an amazing... It's on my list. It's on my list. I also thought of driving north in hope of finding a moose grazing in a bit of marsh, but that's a bit risky, I know. Moose, they can have a bit of a fiery temper. I've seen them on YouTube, charging cars, charging pickups. Although I might come across one of those oversized towering statues of a moose, says Patricia, standing at the edge of the parking lot, one of those roadside restaurants that dot the northern landscape. I know not what this one is, but I can imagine it, what it looks like. It seems there's nothing local that says, "This is Canada, mate." This morning it dawned on me, though, there is something iconically Canadian that will work perfectly with my Photowalk flask, and the photo will be forthcoming. Have a wonderful day. Regards, Patricia. You can't leave us on a cliff edge like this, Patricia. You can't. This is like one of those TV series that has one of those enormously cliff edgery, is there such a phrase? The edge of your seat ending. That's what I was trying to say. Where you think, it's okay. I'll just, make a coffee, then binge the rest on catch-up. Before you realise they're sticking rigidly to a once-a-week release date. No! I was ready to binge until 4 a.m. and probably consume at least 5 packs of Garibaldi's in the process. I'm holding on to the banisters here, waiting for a Flask de Canada Land picture to arrive. With bated breath, I have no doubt your storytelling skills are going to do the thing proud. So I'll look forward to that. Right, grab hold of your handles, peoples. I'm going to transport you by the power of Podcast Sphere from Patricia's front porch to a place 7,000-ish miles away. The wonderful, intriguing, adventurous, rugged, beautiful, and I'm going to use the A word, stand by. This is a special moment. It's the A word that's been hijacked by those TikTokery types to describe blueberry muffins. I'm taking you to a place that is, here comes the A word, an awesome landscape in itself, the one belonging to Nepal. I'll put some pictures on the show page today, and for those who are extra milers, Duncan Ferguson, the photographer behind the pictures, is going to give you one of our, give us one of our monthly Zoom show talks in, hopefully, he says, fingers crossed, next few months. Hello, Neil. I'm currently still writing this up. I'm a police officer, so finding time amongst the day job is a bit of a challenge, I can imagine. In a nutshell, my wife and I went for a bucket list trip to climb Island Peak in Nepal. It's 6,189 metres. What? There's me, chuntering on sometimes about 1,000 metre hills, mountains, whatever you might call them, being my absolute limit. 6,189, nestled in its own valley next to Lhotse, which is also the name of my cockapoo, and Nuptse. Is that another one of your the animals in your house? Lhotse, though, that is quite the mountain, isn't it? Anyway, to show the majesty of this place, I am going to share the 3 pictures, Duncan, that you've shared with me so far. Look at it. I mean, they're all fantastic pictures, but the one right at the end, the third one that you sent me, really shows the scale, the utter scale of this place by you put the base camp, bottom left-hand corner in the composition, and you look at it and you think, whoa, it takes your breath away just looking at the picture. So I shall put those on the show page today, and I'm also going to put on the show page the most incredible film, a North Face film, and it features 2 adventuring mountaineers, Jim Morrison and the sadly late Hilary Nelson. There is a point at 16 minutes into this 23 minutes film, thereabouts, which I was just glued to, where you hear a mountaineer describe something that I've been asking photographers of late, the why in their life, the why of their meaning, the why, and in this case, the why, particularly when you consider the danger and the magnitude of such a challenge as climbing Lhotse. I've heard of the so-called death zone, but I've never really understood what it is and how it came to be. But this film has made me think of those who climb these mountains in an entirely different sense. Look, it's a coffee and quiet night in this film, because you'll want to watch it at least twice. I'll even let you dunk your Garibaldis. And I love this quote from the film by this incredible force for good, Hilary Nelson. You have to take risks if you want to learn anything about yourself. I'll leave you with that thought. You have to take risks if you want to learn anything about yourself. But I hope you enjoy watching that film as much as I did. The North Face channel is amazing. I don't know why I've not really seen many films from it. I've clicked on a few. They're now, by the power of algorithms, now populating my feed quite nicely. So I expect to see a few more over the coming days. If you'd like to send in your stories about where you are in the world, that's what this show is about. It's a photo walk. You with your camera, me with my camera, me with your letters on this clipboard as well. And even those that aren't able to walk along with the show, like Anna, actually, who said she listens on her way to work. It's I know that occasionally I get letters that say, well, it's a bit like walking. I might be in my car, I might be on the 8:15 into insert metropolitan city here. But I feel like I'm walking with you, and that's always a real joy when I get a letter like that. Send your stories to me, your stories of your photographic life, how making pictures has perhaps changed your life. if you're a professional photographer, if you're a hobbyist, if there's so many ifs here, I'd love to hear from you. The email address is stories@photowalk.show, or you can send via the contact page. If you are sending pictures, you'll need to email those in 2,500 pixels wide, please. We could be featuring you in the weeks to come. Right, guest time. Ave Pilders. Born and raised in Cincinnati, Ave Pilders has been a photographer and educator for a time period that covers 5 decades. He has been a photographer of architecture. He's done so many different forms of photographic work, which includes actually also reviewing food and restaurants and making the pictures. But I'd say his real passion and the work that he's celebrated for is his documentary eye for people. Spending time with them and engaging with them. I know that you'll want to look his work up, and I'll be sure to leave lots of links on the show page. Had I been able to, and this is where I really do want somebody to come up with a teleporter invention, please, quick as you can. Have it on the desk by Monday, if you wouldn't mind. This is where that teleporter would have been lovely, because he said, we could have walked along the Hollywood Walk of Fame together, made some pictures. Oh, you bet, that would have been fantastic. Anyway, he recounts a good few stories, and maybe that's a walk to come in the future. Never, as they say never. Here's Ave Pilders. I was searching up a good Holly quote to start our chat, because I thought that might be appropriate, and there are, as you would imagine, quite a few. Google returned 11,200,000 results in 0.47 seconds. And the first Hollywood quote it served up was, "Hollywood is a place where they pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul." I wonder, over the years, Ave, you've been photographing along that boulevard of fame. What's it paid you? Figuratively, perhaps.
That was such a stage. I mean, that whole boulevard is a stage.
Yeah.
And being part of that stage, there are, like every type of person you could think of.
I bet.
It's a public street, and it's a tourist attraction. And for probably the best part of a mile or more, they have this terrazzo sidewalk on both sides of the boulevard that has stars' names implanted in the sidewalk, and people come to see their favorite stars. They can come and stand on the star of their favorite actor or actress or musician. So you get a lot of tourists, you get a lot of hopefuls. I think that everyone who migrates to Los Angeles goes to the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. I mean, there's been a number of changes. I think Hollywood and Vine was a place where people used to show up on Hollywood and Vine and go to the middle of the intersection and just use their cameras or things to take photos to show that they had arrived. And their having arrived was more than just arriving at that destination. It was arriving in Hollywood.
Well, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to the stars in a short while, and we'll talk more about the boulevard. I mean, it's easy if you look at your website to think that you've spent 5 decades photographing people, and in particular, of course, Hollywood sticks out a mile within that portfolio, and the people that you've met in LA. But no, you were an architectural photographer. And I was. Yeah, and how did that then morph itself into music and then where you are now? Let's take the leap to music first of all.
Well, the leap to music came before the architecture, and I can tell you that I was a failed musician.
Oh, it was the other way around. Okay.
Yes, I was a failed musician. Oh. When I was a kid, my mother wanted me to play the violin, and the story goes is that I was more interested in baseball. So I didn't want to play the violin.
Well, there can't be many parents that want their kids to play violin, surely. I'm sorry to those that do play violin, but can you imagine the scraping and scratching? Come on, darling, I want you to be a prize violinist.
It was torture to me, too.
So that didn't work out?
That didn't work out. And in high school, when I wasn't playing athletics, I picked up a B-flat trumpet.
Right.
Because I was interested in music. I just, to be anything, you have to practice a lot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very good at playing the trumpet, but I was interested in music and I was interested in jazz.
Jazz, yeah.
So I knew a little bit about music. So I started to hang out in small clubs in Cincinnati. And in that time, in the early 60s, they were supposed to card you and check your age. And, but things were pretty fast and loose, especially in that community, that wasn't like going into it was a bar, but it wasn't going into a liquor store to try and buy something. So I started hanging out in jazz clubs, and there was really not much of a stage, maybe 2 steps up or something in a jazz club. There might have been room for 50 people. So I could be sitting on the stage with the musicians, and I could talk music with them a little bit, but I started taking pictures. And these musicians were traveling. They were on a circuit. They traveled New York, Chicago, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, then back to New York. So I took the pictures, and if it took me a while, or maybe even 2 days, and they were gone, for me to make a print, and I'd show up and they'd be gone already, I would take the print and stick it on the wall in the dressing rooms with a note saying, if you're going to see so and so in the next few weeks, can you give them this picture? Will you take this picture to them? Well, that endeared me to the new musicians that were coming.
Yeah.
And when they were still in town, if I brought them a print, it endeared me to them. And pretty soon, if I wanted to take pictures someplace, the musicians would say, "Oh, it's okay."
Architectural photography is one skill. Learning to photograph in jazz clubs with sometimes no light to speak of was an entirely different one. You were learning on the job, as it were, weren't you?
Yes. Well, I was shooting film Tri-X.
Yeah.
And I had really pushed it to its limit.
I bet.
So I was developing it in a 2-bath developer so that I could get everything that I could out of it. And the technique that I had is I had a really nice Zeiss lens. It was very, very open, and it was metal and big, and it was sharp. And I couldn't really focus it fast enough because the musicians were moving back and forth while they were playing. So I set my focus, and I just, I had steady hands, and I just waited for the musician to come into focus, and that's when I took the picture.
There's some extraordinary pictures that you've got, and I'll link to them, of course, in the show notes. Was there ever a moment where you might have turned left at the fork in the road and become a full-time musician instead? Or by that stage, were you so far down the photographic and design path, it wasn't really something that you were considering?
I knew that I was never going to be as good as my idols.
Who were?
Sonny Stitt and John Coltrane, Al Gray, who was a mentor of mine, who played a trombone, and I knew his family, and Billy Mitchell. Gee, I mean, it's a long list, and each one of those guys is talented, and I knew I wasn't going to be them.
So photography it was. You ended up at Capitol Records.
I did.
You're keeping up with your travels is one mean feat, and I've probably missed out a whole load of steps in that as well. But you end up at Capitol Records, and you're shooting album covers and designing album jackets, aren't you?
Yes, that's true. I was the new kid on the block then.
Yeah.
I got to work on, ads and things. It wasn't as sexy as I thought it was going to be.
Sounds very glamorous to me.
Well, whenever they had a new musician that they had just signed, they would assign me to that project. So there were a lot of either unrecorded musicians or newly recorded, but that doesn't mean that they were always released. They would record them and make a record, but if they didn't like it, they wouldn't release it. So having been part of that, I made very good friends with a lot of these young musicians who were just starting out. What I saw, even though I made friends with these, but what I saw was that, well, I knew it's being recorded, but Capitol Records wasn't very nice to their musicians.
Oh.
When I say nice, I know that it's a business, and absolutely everything was charged off against the musician's contract. So they didn't give the musicians a contract for a record and X amount of dollars. they gave them studio time. So they went into the studio. That was always arranged. There were people who were husbanding them through that, and all the studio time was charged against their contract. All their meals were charged against their contract. They got a stipend weekly, so that they could do whatever they wanted to do. It wasn't very much. So I thought that even though I had my taste of it, I didn't like the politics of what was going on. So after 6 months, I just started my own design firm, called Plug-In. I had 2 partners, one who had been in school with me in Basel, who wanted to be a painter, but he was also trained as a designer. And the other was an assistant director in Hollywood who was tired of being an assistant director. And I met him at the school that my daughter was going to. So we had this little group, and when we needed other people, we just plugged them in. So I left Capitol Records, but I still was doing lots of work for the entertainment industry. It just morphed out a bit more to doing, I guess, TV promotion stuff, but it was always at the, my creativity was always at the behest of the client.
Even when you ran your own agency?
Oh, yeah. You have to solve the problem.
Yeah. I mean, you left Capitol at a time, I think the Beatles had not long left Capitol when you left Capitol.
I arrived probably the same week that the Beatles broke up.
That's timing.
Yeah. And that was their cash cow.
Yeah.
At that time. That and Tennessee Williams, who was a country star at the time. The result of that is that because the Beatles and Capitol were in a very crazy situation, they just dumped the album Ram, which was Paul McCartney, in my lap and said, here, you take care of this. And I couldn't take care of anything. I just had to do what Linda McCartney said. I did lots of mock-ups for that album, and she would keep saying, no, I want it like this. And finally, she wanted to use her pictures, her thing. So I just kind of prepared the art for the printer.
I want to take you a little bit left at the traffic lights here. In the shadow of the Capitol building, because I've seen it in the photographs that you've made, is Hollywood Boulevard. And the stars are along that strip there. When did you start photographing along there? What was it that drew you there that you thought, well, I reckon I can make pictures of people here?
Well, we went out to lunch every day, and all the restaurants were on Hollywood Boulevard. In fact, there was a famous one on the corner of Hollywood and Vine called the Brown Derby. Right. And it was shaped like a brown derby, and it had a little rim around it also. But it was a place to go for, it was, I guess, now I'd say medium-priced restaurant, but maybe it was expensive then. But we had expense accounts for all of that. Yeah. So we went out to lunch there, and at Musso and Frank's, which still exists, and other restaurants that still exist, a few. And I walked out onto the street with my other art directors and friends from Capitol Records, and I looked around and I said, "Oh my God, this is like Times Square West." So it was just so happening out there. And I wasn't, in the time that I was working at Capitol, I wasn't taking pictures on Hollywood Boulevard. But as soon as I stopped working in Capitol, I started to hang out there because there were, I was still, even though I lived west of Hollywood Boulevard a little bit, all of the music companies and production companies and everything were still in Hollywood. And I could get to Hollywood whenever I wanted and whenever I had to. And if I arrived earlier or I took some time after my meeting, I would start taking pictures.
And the characters you saw at that time, I don't know how much it's changed in the years afterwards, but when I look at those pictures that you made in the 70s in particular, there's a nostalgia attached to it. People come to Hollywood because they think they're going to be found.
Yes.
And I wonder if you found any of those that were eventually found.
Oh, I don't recall that. I think that somebody else found them before me. But a lot of the people who were actors were bit actors.
Yeah.
And they were happy to be photographed, really wanted to be in front of the camera. And the other ones, I just have easy interaction with people on the street. So I could stop them. And you develop a technique of how to do that. So my camera, in most cases, was on a tripod.
I was going to say, yeah, there were moments where you had your camera on a tripod, and people were coming to you. There's some photographs where they're almost leaning across the camera as if they're, what's this? What's this about? And I was thinking, is Ave there? Or has he left his camera there and he's got some great long shutter release button?
Yeah. I have a little collection in my series called Looking In, you know?
Yeah.
And those were... You know, when you get to a certain point, if you're doing the same thing every day, you try and look for variations.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would put my tripod and the camera down pretty low, and I was always using a wide-angle lens. So why did I have it very low? Because I was interested in what the people look like when you can't see their faces. In doing that, then there were people who wanted to photobomb that. You know, the photo bombing didn't even exist then.
That was the early photo bombing.
Yeah, so people would walk by and try and get in the picture.
Yeah, they duck down. I've seen it in your pictures.
Yeah, they would duck down. And I was on I think probably almost a 2 meter plus cable release.
Okay.
So I wasn't always near the camera. I was 6 or 8 feet away sometimes. And so people didn't know when I was taking pictures, but I knew when they entered the frame because I was careful to frame the picture what I wanted in the frame. So when they ducked in, I would just take the picture. So that just became part of a collection. You say you're pretty good at sussing out what people are like and whether they'll want their pictures made. I'm intrigued though. What's an Ave Pildus person? Who are you looking for? What are they likely to be? What will they say? How do you engage with them? It's that sort of silver bullet question in some respects that I ask so many street photographers. How do you engage? What do you say? What do you do? Well, first thing is that I have the leg up on this because I see them coming. Yeah. I know more about them than they know about me. Do they have a limp? Are they with a dog? Do they have a neat shirt on? Do they have new shoes? So as they come, before they ever get to the camera, I'm in some cases having a conversation with them. You know, gee, I really like your shirt, or what do you got? Is that your kid? You know, whatever comes to my mind. I wish I could tell you that it's the same all the time, but it's not. You know, it's just, oh, gee, you really look great. Can I take your picture? No, you can't. Oh, why is that? Well, I don't want my picture taken. That happens more now than it did then. And while they're talking to me, I'm taking pictures, you know? And then the next thing is that, well, now I can show them the picture that I took. I couldn't show them the picture that I took then because it was film, but I could show them the picture that I take now. You know, I just, and sometimes if people say, no, don't take my picture, I say, okay, because I know another picture is going to happen in a millisecond. And my thanks to Ave Pildus for his time talking to us. Part 2, because there's a second part coming up a little bit later on in the show. I feel like I'm walking through... Neil, are you going to over-exaggerate? Oh, I might do. I was about to say, I feel like I'm walking through the jungle with all this, the growth of the understory in the woodland and plants bursting forth left, right, and centre. Definitely, we're entering the spring into summer moment. Everything is flourishing along this path, flourishing and becoming 7 times as large as it once was, making a few square format pictures, my sketchbook as I go along. Actually, it looks very meadowish, this bit. It's a path, but not as we know it, Jim. Yeah, you can just about see the path snaking through, and it's quite nice because there's the sun coming through on the other side of the tree that I'm photographing towards, so there's sort of shade leading towards a better exposed area, sunshine just peeping down onto the path. 210 shutter speed,
Here we go. I'm beginning to warm to this square format. I don't know why I've not done it before. This is my moment, cue song, to mention, or if you will, remind you that if you like this photo walk of a Friday, there is a show now on the Wednesday as well. It's called The Extra Mile, where I take a walk and talk to a guest and experiment a little with ideas for this walking show. And actually, it's really nice. The Extra Mile is exclusively available to our patrons, and it's been fantastic that the Extra Milers are the guests on that programme. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can listen to the Extra Mile, come for the extra walk with us a week, then there's a link on the front page. It's the page is in black and white, bar the link. That's yellow, orange, yellow. We've had this argument before. I like it, Neil. You're thinking like a designer. You've grabbed my attention. On the front page of the website, photowalk.show, that's where you'll find that link. So there's the Extra Mile. So called because I will go the extra mile for those who support this show with a modest monthly, or as many people are doing now, annual donation. Modest annual donation. I might add. Plus, we meet once a month for the InVision show on Zoom, which features our own guest speakers, mentioning Duncan a moment ago, of course, questions from the Roll of 12, and an invite for Extra Milers to share the pictures and the stories that they've been making across the last month.
On this week's Extra Mile,
I'm walking on the show close to home with a photographer, an Extra Miler, who came to visit the Barking Thing and me. He's at his girlfriend's today. Barney, that is, not Sean, my guest. I might quickly add, he's married. Step away from the freshly dug hole, Neil. Yes, I talked with Sean about all kinds of stuff in a walk that's it's around about an hour 6, I think. We talk about travels. We talk about taking the leap of faith to go professional for a while, and why he stopped. We talk about sprats, Neil. What? Sprats? Yeah, we talk about sprats. And we taste some Garibaldi's. A Garibaldi taste test. Now, there's a first.
Now, you invested money in these, so I won't be rude.
Crawford's so much better.
But they're like cardboard. Oh. Actually, no, it's not an ooh. I'm not going to do...
And I really dislike it when Gordon Ramsay spits food out. And we have a little heart-to-heart over charging for what is essentially your pastime.
I think at the end of when you're doing it professionally, it's always a struggle. I always think for any, say artist, don't be so grand, but for anyone who's doing something creative and then they make money from it, you don't always make money from the things you want to do.
You can become an Extra Miler by clicking on the Support the Show icon, which is on the front page of the website, photowalk.show. And thank you to all those who are making this show a weekly adventure with our cameras.
For quality used and inspected photo and video kit with a 6-month guarantee upon what you buy, visit mpb.com.
It's the Photo Walk on a Friday. Thank you for being here, making this walk with me. Thank you for the letters that you're sending in. The stories that are arriving are fantastic. The places that you're going to, and we say stories of life told by photographers, and that's certainly what I'm receiving. And also some of the very personal messages that you've been sent in, what's happening in your life at the moment. And this is one such letter, actually, from Robin Chun, who's been a supporter of the show. Well, probably Robin, since the day dot of this show. I'm absolutely sure of that. So thank you for your letter. A short story for consideration, he says. Mid-Feb, I received this only a couple of weeks ago, but mid-Feb, he says, I awoke and rose to what I thought would be just another normal day. My wife took one look at me and exclaimed, "Shit, you've had a stroke." I duly looked in the mirror, and one side of my face had dropped considerably. Emergency services were called, paramedics swiftly arrived, observations taken, and off to hospital I was whisked. I was checked into resus, into a hospital gown, you know, the ones where your behind hangs out. Oh, I don't like those ones at all. Oof. Wired up to numerous machinery, and a consultant gave me a thorough once-over. "You haven't had a stroke," he said. "You've got Bell's palsy." And he continued to tell me all about this malady that, until a few moments before, I was blissfully ignorant of. It's a benign condition that mimics a stroke, causing paralysis to one side of the face, and most make a full recovery, usually within 3 to 6 months. Phew, thank goodness for that, says Robin. Instructions, eye drops, ointments prescribed, and I was duly released. You may wonder, Neil, why I'm relating this somewhat traumatic experience to you in a photographic podcast. Well, I'm still affected on the right side of my face, and being right-eye dominant, it does make any photography practically impossible, at least for me. So with a lot of frustration and fretting, how am I going to cope? No pressing the shutter button, no photo walks, no fishing, no hunting, all the things that make up my passion. After more frustration and fretting, I soon came to the realization that it's okay not to take pictures. It's okay for the moment to stay home. There's plenty more I can be doing. Annoying and disappointing, but it's okay. So I look forward to a full recovery and getting back to normal, back to my photography, back to the photo walks, safe in the knowledge of how fortunate I really am. My photography sways to the aesthetic, sometimes the abstract. So I enclose a few images taken on a couple of photo walks in Bath shortly before this whole thing. Kind regards from Robin. Well, Robin, first up, I'm really sorry you've had to go through this, and yeah, I can sense your frustration not being able to make the photographs as you would usually like, the frequency that you'd usually like to work as well. But as you say, it's okay. It'll come back, and you'll be out there making photographs again. And I'm coming to Bath actually in a few weeks' time. I'm going to spend a day photo walking with our good friend Neil. Yes, Neil of the Ford, who is who holds up all the wires that keep this thing in check and in place. I'm very much looking forward to that. It's your part of the world, Robin, isn't it? And it's a wonderful place to go photographing and make pictures. If you're up for it, maybe you could join us for a coffee or something. I'll leave it with you, as my dear mum used to say. But do get well soon, Robin, and I certainly will share the pictures that you've sent in, which are fantastic. I love your eye, the way you look past and through things. Oh, well, you know me. That gets me every single time in compositional terms. They're fantastic, and I love the way they're graded too. I know that's just a part of the process, but it's very noticeable. You'll see that if you go and look at the pictures on the show page today. So get well soon, Robin. All our love from the photo walk as I traverse this path through the stingers for you. Thanks, Robin, for your letter. Well, it's a new month. We're into May. A new month means what? Oh, I don't know. New underwear, Neil? What? New underwear? You only do it once a month? Surely not. I've known you all this time, and I've only just learned that about you. No, not that. New camera? No, but that would always be nice, wouldn't it? A new camera, new shiny things. No, not new camera. But actually, since you give me the opportunity, don't forget mpb.com, who sponsor this show. My thanks to them for doing so. New to you camera, to you, to me, to you. No, it's not a new camera. What is it? Last chance. New assignment, Neil. Yes, new assignment. I knew you'd get there in the end. This month, it's being set by Steve Reeves. Now, he talked to us a little while back, actually, in episode 368, about making portraits on your doorstep and embracing the skill of listening and writing. So it's a sharpen your pen as well as photographic eye challenge. I will say no more, but I will press the big button on the tree, on the tree over here that says roll tape of Steve Reeves, which I'll grant you is an odd button to have on a path in the countryside.
The Photo Walk assignment.
Steve, as an assignment, I'm so pleased that you've not decided to go left field and off in a direction that didn't resemble anything we talked about within our conversation about people, because you so clearly love people. So this is Well, this, without doing too much of a spoiler, this is an assignment about those that you love.
Yeah, I think it would be a great idea to go out and, rather than just photograph someone, to actually go up and talk to them, see if you could, maybe by combining words or video or the photo, get across your experience of that encounter with those people. Now,
I want to be clear, actually, because I said those that you love. I was referring more to you with your love affair. We're talking to people and getting stories and having encounters. We're not talking about, because I think it would probably be too easy to just go and interview and take a photograph of your grandfather or your mother or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be better. Well, it'd be nice if it was a stranger, to go up to find a stranger and to interview them. Although that is an interesting thing to do a relative as well, because again, one of the funny things from what I do, people often say children or grandchildren read what I've written about their grandparents or their parents and say, I didn't know any of this.
Wow.
Because you don't really talk about those sorts of things with your relatives. So many people have said to me, I didn't even know my grandmother did that. So there could be that, just to sit down and photograph someone and just interview them and see what comes out of it.
Because you're right, because we don't interview as such with a small eye those that we love, and there are probably stories that they have that we didn't know anything about.
Yeah, so if you're not comfortable enough going up to a stranger, which is hard, definitely, you could do it with a relative or someone that you do feel more comfortable with. But try and get a lot sort of. Well, I think Instagram's. I try to stick to 2,200 characters, but I break it all the time. If you could do a little summary of your encounter with that person and try and find one thing that you can get across about them that sort of encapsulates that conversation, that would be amazing.
Fantastic.
The Photowalk assignment.
Good luck as you make your pictures. It's been a bumper crop over the last month for Valerie Jardin's street self-portrait photograph. Thank you so much for all those entries, and we have to well, it's not really a winner. We have one that's caught our eye, but not my eye on this occasion. No, the eye of Valerie Jardin, who of course set the assignment. So Valerie has chosen the picture we're sending the famous, not so famous flask to. But I do need to, because this is hot off the press, this one, return to my studio self to announce that name. Okay, from the warmth of the studio then, here's what our Valerie sent in. Wow, they were inspired, she said. Tough one, let's decide together. Oh, Valerie, that's not fair. I was hoping to be off the hook on this one. Johnson John stands out for cinematic feel, though I'm not overly fond of the tint, says Valerie. I think black and white could have been stronger. Just a question mark. Anthony Hibble for the mood. Dennis Skyam for the film noir look. John Grindle, creativity, loved it. I'm going to throw one in the mix as well from Michael Mixon, the fabulous layers in that reflection photograph made in the coffee shop window. But you did say, Valerie, you were leaning toward Johnson John, so I have to say, I think I am as well. There's a very stylized feel for sure. And I thought at first glance he was in a wonderful vintage car, so it was quite clever as well. I liked it. We are singing, I think, Valerie, from the same hymn book on that one. You in tune, obviously, me disastrously flat, but we are agreeing, so let's go for John's picture. A famous, not so famous flask will be making its way out to you. And good luck for the next assignment. Throwing back to you then, my Photowalk self, across an overgrown track by the sounds of it. Make it crunch, please, for full effect. Right. Part 2, then, of my conversation with Ave Pildus. It's always fascinating, I think, finding out how people work. I suppose in many respects, but particularly when I talk to street photographers or those who make portraits on the street, I'm always, and I know there isn't one, but I shall continue to ask in the eternal search for the silver bullet. The answer to the question, which is, how do you approach people? What do you say? What endears you to somebody? It's a question you can ask photographers who specialise in doing that kind of photography. You'll never get the same answer twice. And most of the time I sense there's that kind of, well, you just do, don't you? kind of answer, just waiting in the wings. But it seems with Ave, it's kindness, it's interest, it's a smile, it's a bit of barefaced bloody cheek as well. So here's part 2, the concluding part of my conversation today with the photographer Ave Pilders.
I'm intrigued by the fact that you said people do refuse you on that walk of fame. I rightly or wrongly, and perhaps it's wrong to assume, that I've always thought people on that walk of fame would be really happy to act, to do whatever they needed to do for the camera. Whilst you've photographed all over the world, Europe and well beyond, it must be different in countries. I mean, Britain for a start, I think we're all quite reserved when it comes to pictures being made on the street, but you're, or maybe not so.
I posted 3 pictures today. I have a post every Wednesday called Pics Fix. And today were 3 pictures from London that I shot in the 70s or 80s. You know, I'll just go up to people and ask them if I can take their picture. You know, I'm not afraid to do that, and I will engage them some way or another. And it really doesn't matter. I don't have to speak the language. You know, sometimes I just I learn how to say photo please or something, and sometimes the people will step to the side. I might not point to them. I might point to something they're standing in front of, and they'll step out of the way a little bit so that I can take a picture of the fruits or vegetables or car parts or whatever they're standing in front of. And you know, I love wide angle lenses, and when I step back, those people are still in the picture. So I take the picture, and then I show them. Nowadays, I show them what I've done. And then they're smiling and I'm smiling. And then I say, oh, can you stand here? And then I take another picture. I often say, here's a card. Just if you want me to send you a picture, send me an email. Tell me what you were wearing and where it was. And if they do that, I send them an image. It's the same as if I left a print on the wall in a jazz club. I think it's nice for people to have the picture.
So, Starstruck is the book about that time that you've been photographing along the Walk of Fame. Where do you even start when you're deciding what's going to go in a book like that, with all those hundreds and hundreds, dare I say probably thousands of pictures to choose from?
3.5, maybe close to 4 years of taking pictures on Hollywood Boulevard. And I've been there more recently because I wanted to see if I could draw some parallels between now and then.
I saw that. And did you find some parallels?
Oh yeah. You asked before about the people. The people are they're different people, but the type of people hasn't changed.
Yeah.
The costumes have changed, but the types of people are still the same. There's still people who want to be discovered. Now there's more people who are buskers and people who are selling stuff on the Hollywood Boulevard, and grifters, people trying to separate you from your money. Now there are lots of people who dress up as Spider-Man and Batman, Superman costumes. And they walk the boulevard, and even Mickey and Minnie Mouse, and I don't know, anybody else you can think of. And they ply their wares that have a picture taken with you and Mickey, or with you and Spider-Man. And then their expectation is that you give them some money. That happens a lot. And those people are very aggressive. I'm even though I don't feel like I can defend myself anymore, I'm still a little pushy.
Ave's America. That's pretty satisfying, I would imagine, to have a film made about you. That's what the film coming out is called, Ave's America. It covers 5 decades of you photographing. Would that be everything? Would that be from your architecture through to people, or what do they focus on within that film?
wasn't my preferred title, but it isn't my film really. I'm the main actor.
Yeah.
But I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, a guy I hadn't heard from for a long time called me up and said, "Oh, this is Patrick. Do you remember me?" And Patrick was a student of mine, just I think one class, maybe 2 classes at Art Center. He was studying to be a director and needed to take some film composition classes. And I said, "Oh, Patrick, nice to hear from you. What's going on?" "Well, I've been following your career for 40 years. I said, "What for?" And he said, I want to do a documentary about you. And I said, "Oh, Patrick, can't you pick somebody else?" I wasn't really up for it. But he kept after me for, I don't know, a few months. And after I collected all the information, he said, "I'll follow you around." I said, "You'll follow me around? Where?" Because I'm traveling a lot. And so it got narrowed down. "Well, how about just Southern California, and we'll shoot only when you have time and I have time," because he was a working director. And I said, "Okay, that might work." He hadn't told me that the title yet. He started following me around Los Angeles area, Skid Row, Beverly Hills, maybe Pasadena, Hollywood, the West Side, the Venice Beach, just places where we could get to easily, because I really nixed the idea of him following me out of the country. That wasn't going to work. So he and a camera person and a sound person. It was just like a 3-man crew, and he followed me around for the 3 years, and then COVID hit. So he spent 2 years editing all of the hours that he had shot.
And it shows, obviously, your archive as your...
Yes, there are a few things in the film that I think are really off base, but I understand that they're just for context, like the shots of the Vietnam War and the shots of and the news footage of Kennedy. I don't know whether I was lucky or unlucky, but I was never in the military. I wasn't a conscientious objector, but I found ways to not be draftable. But I was in school, or I got married, or something like that.
But you certainly photographed the peace campaigns, the peace marches, didn't you?
I did photograph some of those, and that was pretty interesting too. It was a little bit different kind of photography that I wanted to take, or that I'm still taking. So there wasn't a separation. I really like to zero in on something so that I can control the composition of the frame. So it's important. What's not in the frame is just as important as what's in the frame.
Yeah. And so in a similar way, you photographed Skid Row. That does feature in the film. I mean, you can't get much more of a key change than that, can you? When you think of the proximity between that place and just down the road, where there's unbelievable, even obscene wealth. It's been photographed many, many times. How did your eyes want to show this place to the outside world? Because you do say that you're interested in the unusual, and that's an unusual place. Both
Beverly Hills and Skid Row are unusual.
That's true.
But I had been taking pictures for years to celebrate the 4th of July, which is the commemoration of the start of this country.
Yeah.
And so initially I would take a flag to Venice Beach and ask people to stand in front of it. And I generally would stop people who were either wearing a flag image on their shirt or had on a Stars and Stripes bikini or a hat or something like that. And I got them to pose in front, and that became a palette for presenting all of those people at the same time. So it might be 5 across and 5 down, but all standing in front of the star. So I did that for a couple years, and then I said, I should do this on Hollywood Boulevard. So I did that on Hollywood Boulevard on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
There weren't as many people on Hollywood Boulevard on the 4th of July because most of the people went to the beach because it's hot in July here. But the people that I saw, a lot of people were derelict. They weren't going to the beach anyway. So that just rang a bell. And then I said, wow, next 4th of July, I'll take the flag down to Skid Row and hang it up on a fence.
Right.
And I'll hang it up on the fence upside down. So I hung it up on the fence upside down because that's a symbol of distress. And in the news, homelessness in, I guess that was 2016, I think. But the situation was bad then. And I would go to downtown Los Angeles anyway to take pictures because it was more city-like. Everything spread out in Los Angeles. But there are concentrations where they have office buildings, and downtown is one of them. So the way that started is that I hung my flag upside down, and the people who owned the building, they had some security. So the security came out. It was like midday. Security came out and said, "You can't do that." And I said, "Look, you work and live down there." I think this was maybe a shelter of some kind. Look, I'm only going to be here a short time, and I'm going to remove everything. I'm not hurting anything, but I want to show what's going on here. And they said, we're going to lunch now, and do what you got to do. And so I left the flag up there, and it's just after I had the flag up, two guys came along, one guy pushing the other guy in a wheelchair, and they said to me, and I had set my camera up on the tripod, they said to me, "Do you know what this means? Do you have the flag upside down?" I said, "Sure, look around. Don't you think that we're in distress?" And they said, yeah. They said, we're veterans here, and, we're homeless. What are you going to do? I said, "I'm going to take pictures of the local people here." And they said, "Can we be the first ones?" So they're on the cover of a little book that I did. And I had taken a prop with me, a couple of hand flags and a hat or so. And I took pictures. Well, as soon as I did that, a woman who had a part of a Stars and Stripes bikini asked me if I would give her, if I could take her a picture for $1. And I said, well, I'll give you a bottle of water, because I had a bottle of water next to me. And she said, okay. And I took her picture, and then she left. Then I started asking people, "Oh, will you pose for me? Will you pose?" Not too long, just maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. She came back with a bullhorn, and started saying, "Get $1, have your picture taken," or "Get a bottle of water, have your picture taken," And then there was a line around the block, so then I didn't have to say anything. It was just, in an hour and a half, I shot over 400 photographs. Click, click, click.
You have a unique way of finding people.
Yes, that's true. I'll talk to anybody.
I wonder, 5 decades making pictures, what's going to be your legacy years from now, Ave?
Well, I hope there is one for sure. I think I'm very fortunate that I was able to take care of myself when I was a commercial photographer. I can tell you that in 2008, I destroyed all my commercial work because I didn't want to take care of it, and that it was also I was doing things at the demand of other people. So now everything that's left are photographs that I'm personally involved in. So I'm just hoping that, and I already know that the books that I've done are in the Library of Congress, and that's a legacy. And I just know that those pictures are going to be around much longer than me. That's the legacy. Somebody 50 years from now is going to discover that picture and say, "Oh, that's interesting,"
And my thanks to Ave Pilders for sharing his story on the Photowalk today. And I am hoping now that, as I said, never say never. He does like to make journeys to the UK. Maybe, or it could be vice versa. Maybe I'm going the other way across the Atlantic. Watch this space to meet up with Ave and who knows, walk that Hollywood Walk of Fame. I mentioned the other day on the... there he is, look. Who, Neil? What are you talking about? I mentioned the other day at the start of the extra mile that I've been walking along and a hoverfly had positioned itself just in front of me. And look, I mean, it's not the same one, clearly. We're in a different... Maybe it is. We're in a different place, but there's one right in front of me. If I turn, he's turning with me. Don't do that. You're unnerving me now. They are amazing hoverflies, aren't they? The accuracy, the laser... like accuracy of their flying, just incredible. Anyway, for links to Ave, where was I? Yes, for links to Ave and other photographers you've heard from or about today, socials and websites that we've mentioned, yes, the films as well. There's a good film reference library on the page as well today. Go to the show page, number 379, that matches the number of this episode on photowalk.show. You'll find it as well in your app. Just look at the app. There we go. Just a little bit further down. There's a link. Follow that, and it'll open up a browser, and you can go and have a look at those websites, those photographers, those people. I think also a note to self, I should put something about Patti Smith's book as well. Yeah, note to self there, link to Patti's book. There's an article, I think it's a Guardian article that I read when researching this that I'd like to link to as well. Our play-out song today, I feel we should have some sort of jazz influence, really. Because Ave Pilders loves his jazz, of course. So I've chosen, a jazz artist. You might say loosely, lightly jazz in some places. But I love his work, Anthony Lazzaro. And, he's going to feature in a new show that I've been making for a number of months now. It's it's something that will see the light of day at some stage. It's the music that we've used during the photo walks, music that I find inspirational. Not all vocal-led songs. Quite often the instrumental tracks that we've used. Music to walk by. That sounds like an album, doesn't it? Which also features... Oh, hang on. I'm going through the... God, ouch! I've got fairly good thick jeans that I sometimes wear for walking in. I've got my walking trousers, but they're in the wash. I'm wearing my jeans today, and the nettles, whew, they do seem to make their way through the jeans. Yes, so yes, that music to walk by, which also has short inspirational things that have been said by guests from the past on this show that are interspersed through that program. I must, before I tell you more about the music we're going to play and read you the PS, I must get this. This is lovely. It's just long grass, but the shapes... Oh, let me get a picture. It'll be easier to describe in one of my square format, which is how I've been working today. One of my square format sketchbook pictures. 1/2/5. Let's give it a bit more depth. f5.6. ISO's bumped up to 640 now. There we go. A bit closer, maybe. Actually get the lens right into the grass. Fab. I'll put my pictures, my sketchbookers, up on the show page today as well. So yes, music. I'm going to go a bit exotic with this one, actually. Some jazz for Ave, as I say, since he's so passionate about that genre. And the voice of Sarah Kang. She is a New York artist with a Korean heritage. She's currently releasing her first full-length album titled How I Remember. One song every month. It's an exploration of nostalgia and time passing and how to hope in the midst of change. Ooh, now I like that. So Something New is the song. It's by Anthony Lazzaro with these wonderfully warm, breath-filled, melodic vocal twists from Sarah in Korean. That's why I said we're going a bit exotic. A wonderful song to walk a path together for the last few pictures we make together on the show. Shall I get? Can I get through? Come on, be brave, Neil. March through the nettles. Come on, there we go. Right, this week's postscript to the show is as promised. Did I promise you this earlier? Oh, I don't know if I did, actually. But when we mentioned Marcus Aurelius, I thought, must do a PS today, some Stoic philosophy from Marcus Aurelius. Now, in that he didn't write much about photography, or to be a little bit more accurate, the fact that the camera wasn't to be invented for another 1,646 years, give or take a month or three, meant that I couldn't find you anything particularly pithy that he had to say about looking through an eyepiece. But he did say, each day provides its own gifts, which reminds me of my chat with Anna Bush earlier. But also, I think maybe he was onto something here with this next one photographically. You know how we often say that photography makes us appreciate being in the moment? Perhaps he really did see a time when we might make pictures through a small box, taking us away from life's other noisy thoughts, if only for 1/60th of a second or so, when he said, and it is pithy, when he said, confine yourself to the present.
너와 나 우리의 여름밤 그 세 글자 네 눈에 떠올라 잠깐만 아니야 떠오른 그 말 오늘은 그 말을 하기 싫어 그 얘기 많이 해본 것 같아 고백은 조금씩 상하잖아 오늘은 나 좀 다르게 그 말 안 할게 사랑해
너와 나 사이에 선을 지울래 그러면 그 말도 필요 없는 걸 그 얘긴 많이 해본 것 같아 고백은 조금씩 상하잖아 오늘은 나 좀 다르게 그 말 안 할게 사랑해 그 말보다 더 느낄 수 있게 보여줄게 너 사랑해
The beautiful tones of Sarah Kang on Anthony Lazzaro's song, Something New. I love the sound, not just of her voice, but equally that album that's being released gradually, one song every month, an exploration of nostalgia and time passing, and how to hope in the midst of change. Perfect. And, well, I've just had a mail as well from Robin Chun, which I want to read to you. He said, right eye still doesn't shut or blink as normal, but there is improvement almost daily, which is good news. That, I think, is a brilliant PPS to the show. And that is it for this week. My thanks to Ave Pilders and Anna Bush. The Extra Mile is out. And a reminder that this week I'm walking with an extra miler in person, which is always a joy. We scoot around Greenham Common with, as you will find out, a badly behaved dog, he says, with a sense of, well, an odd sense of joy. Sean Edwards on Doing What You Love. Whether pay slightly blights that. Camera talk. Yes, me. Camera talk. That'll be fun, Neil. Did you get a nosebleed? Did you keep up with it? Well, I held my own, you know. Well, you'll hear if you hear it. And a Garibaldi taste test. Plus some super letters and thoughts. You can become an extra miler on photowalk.show and hear all of those programs. Final virtual fist bumps go to Neil Ford, head of stuff that only works after he's given it a reboot. Emily Renier for your eyes in our Facebook group. And Andrea Gilpin, chief of staff on the Instagram and ideas floor. To Artlist for the music, and I look forward to photographing with you, hearing from you and talking with you next time.
The Photo Walk is a Loading Zone production.